Tense times for Air Canada passengers as the clock ticks down to the deadline for a strike by flight attendants. The airline moving ahead with cancellations today, impacting thousands. Good afternoon. Time is running out for Air Canada to reach an agreement with its flight attendants. It's
the final day before a potential strike that could ground all Air Canada flights. CTV Sean Leathong is live at Pearson Airport with the latest on the labor dispute. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, those flight cancellations are expected to pick up in the afternoon. I've just been told by Air Canada we should expect some 270 cancellations across the country to happen this afternoon. Now, we had been told yesterday there'd be about 500 throughout the day as they wind towards that total shutdown if this midnight deadline passes for a strike to begin. Now, I'd also been told by the union that they will not be going forward with binding arbitration. There had been a noon deadline today set by Labour Minister Patty Hajdu about that the union had asked for to decide whether they would enter binding arbitration, something that Air Canada had asked them to do. What the union is saying is they want to go to the table. Now, as far as operations go at Pearson Airport, planes are taking off today. Things are moving forward, and it is busy here today, but it is relatively orderly. But we are hearing stories of people who are trying to find other ways home, trying to find different flights, and are nervous about possibly being stranded. And we're hearing stories about cancellations already, people having to try and find another way to get to their destination. But we spoke to both Air Canada and the union today about what today is going to look like. Here's what they had to say.
I am convinced that we could come to an agreement before any more disruptions are made. I just want to highlight here that, the strike or lockout would have started past midnight tonight. There shouldn't be any cancellation at this point. These are choices that Air Canada is making.
We're going to have a phased roll down, an orderly wind down in order to give customers certainty and also to make sure we're in a position to restart the airline when it's done. So because it's on a rolling basis, the flights that we're canceling now because of the labor disruption, they're for tomorrow. So they won't be on the screens tomorrow.
So where we are as far as these negotiations is we have 12 hours until this deadline, and the union has said that they made an offer on Tuesday night to Air Canada, and they've heard nothing since that time. The union saying they are waiting at the table for Air Canada to show up and start negotiations, but at this point they say those talks are not happening. And going back to what we were told just a little while ago, the cancellations will start piling up this afternoon. Air Canada saying it will be about 270 cancellations across the country this afternoon, with more to come. And as we know, moving towards that complete shutdown tomorrow if there is not a deal. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. To another labor dispute, meetings between Canada Post and the Canadian Union of Postal Workers scheduled to take place today and Monday have been postponed. The federal mediators involved in the negotiations between Canada Post and CUPW are unable to assist with the labor dispute because of their current involvement in the Air Canada negotiations. Workers rejected Canada Post's latest proposal, which would have included a wage hike of 13% over 4 years and restructuring to add part-time workers. Negotiations for a new collective agreement have been going on for more than a year and a half now.
Still ahead, two separate crashes involving testing trains for the Eglinton Crosstown LRT have some flagging safety concerns with the future line. Details a little later in the newscast. But first, the Canadian National Exhibition is back and officially open.
The iconic Toronto tradition, expecting to see major foot traffic over the next few weeks. So Jessica Smith is live once again on the X grounds with more on the sights and sounds. Jess, you were sampling food the other day. Now the guests have arrived. Tell us more.
Well, it is day one of the 18-day festival, the 146th edition of the CNE. And according to the CNE, about 1.5 million visitors make their way through this festival, this park, this kind of entertainment hub every single year. Now, it is the end of summer sign, right, that a lot of people kind of stick to. And when it comes to this time of year, it kind of carries us into the fall and the beginning of the fall season. There are concerts, there are live animals, there are rides, there are games, and of course, the food. You guys saw me with the food earlier this week. They have a very heavy butter theme as they make their way throughout the year. I had the butter soda, and it's still questionable at best, but hey, you know what? If you like butter, this one is for you. And new this year is an interactive activation called Mythos. There's also dinner in the sky at 150 feet in the air. There's a drag show this Sunday, and Evolution, a circus performance. And the CNE has also teamed up with the TTC, offering additional trips to and from Union Station. The annual exhibition provides a major boost to the local economy and provides thousands of seasonal jobs. We spoke to the CNE CEO, Mark Holland, earlier today about the launch of the 146th edition of the exhibition.
What a tradition, right? 146 years. I think we're all connected to it. You know, for me, coming here as a kid, the excitement of being on a ride, trying wacky food, getting to go to a music show. Yeah. I mean, it was always so exciting. And now my mom's coming here today. She's 81 years old. Oh, wow. She was an ice skater. She's so excited to see Elvis Stoico. So, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a kid or 81 years old. There's something here for everybody. It's a really important tradition in the city.
Now, the grounds are open till midnight, but for a full list of when everything opens and closes, it's a little different depending on what you're doing. You can go to thex.com. Reporting live, I'm Jessica Smith. I'll send things back inside.
Thank you so much, Jess. And she mentioned the increase to TTC service to get people to and from the CNE. Metrolinx is also boosting GO Train service while the X is underway. Additional trips will be operating on the Lakeshore West and East lines, and some trains on the Milton, Barrie, and Stouffville lines will have extra coaches to accommodate more passengers. The transit agency encouraged riders to plan their trips in advance.
Also this weekend, horse racing fans will be headed to Woodbine Racetrack for the King's Plate. Tomorrow's race will mark the 166th running of the event, which is considered Canada's oldest and most prestigious thoroughbred race. The King's Plate is also an opportunity for guests to dress up in high fashion, including, of course, fascinators and other colorful accessories. Doors open at 11:30 in the morning, with the race scheduled for around 5:30.
And it's always nice when the weather cooperates. I think last year's event was definitely difficult because of the weather. Now we've got beautiful sunshine on a Friday in August with more to come. You really couldn't ask for more at this stage in the summer. Let's get to Lindsay Morrison with a look at the current conditions. Give us the good news, Lindsay.
Yeah, Michelle, this is a quintessential summer day. We're looking at an afternoon high of about 29 degrees, feeling like 34, so a little more humid than it was yesterday, but glorious sunshine out there. It's currently 26 degrees, feeling like 31. And if I can here, I'm going to advance this map to show you. There it is. The winds, which today are coming from a southeasterly direction. Into the weekend, we'll tap into more of a southerly and southwesterly flow, and that will usher in even warmer air. Not much to show you here on the satellite and radar. It's going to be a dry day today, and for most of tomorrow, your plans should be able to proceed without too much concern when it comes to the weather. Let's go to the X. Here's a look at what you can expect this afternoon. Again, 29 degrees, humid X 34, light winds, and a beautiful blue sky. We're going to take you through a full look at the weekend forecast and talk about the cool down that's expected for next week. That's all coming up. For now, though, Nathan, I'll send it over to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. A warning, this next story has some potentially disturbing video. York Regional Police sharing footage of a shooting in Markham as they try to find the suspects responsible. This happened around 5:30 p.m. yesterday near McCowan and 14th Avenue. It shows a suspect arriving in a gray Honda CRV and getting out with what appears to be a gun. Police are alleging the suspect then shot a victim who was seated in his driveway. He suffered non-life-threatening injuries, but then tried to drive off, hitting the suspect's vehicle. Investigators believe the incident was targeted, and they're asking anyone with information to get in touch. Meanwhile, Toronto police have updated their investigation into a sprawling gunfight on Queen Street West on November 14th. Make that November 11th. Police say 3 armed suspects fired at a recording studio where a group was gathered for a birthday party. The people inside fired back as officers responded. The Integrated Gun and Gang Task Force says it's made 4 additional arrests in the case for a total of 36 to date. But they say 3 suspects remain on the loose. 28-year-old Mahmoud Khairi of Brampton, 25-year-old Olad of Toronto, and 19-year-old Johnnery Walker of Brampton. They're wanted on weapons offenses and other charges. Anybody with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers.
Barrie police have laid murder charges following weeks of investigation at an encampment site. On July 30th, police closed off the downtown encampment to carry out some kind of search. They later arrested a suspect on weapons offenses and other charges, as searches also took place at properties in Huntsville and North Simcoe County. Yesterday, the Major Crime Homicide Unit said those efforts recovered suspected human remains, and they have now charged that same suspect, 52-year-old Robert Ladouceur, with several offenses linked to the deaths and dismemberment of two men in their 40s. Police say the investigation was triggered earlier this year by reports of a missing person. The accused faces a bail hearing. The allegations have not been tested in court.
Friends and family of a father of three killed by what authorities allege is a repeat dangerous driver have launched a petition calling for a new Andrews Law. John Woodward joins us now at the Oshawa Courthouse, where the accused has a bail hearing. John.
Yeah, Nathan, right from the beginning when we first interviewed them on Monday, Andrew Cristillo's family has been calling for systemic change. They say this is a step in the direction of making our roads safer. So all of this comes in the wake of the death of 35-year-old Andrew Cristillo, who was killed earlier this month in a crash that also seriously injured his three young daughters. The accused driver in that case was also accused in January of dangerous driving in a crash with OPP cruiser carrying Ontario Premier Doug Ford. The petition argues drivers charged with dangerous driving should face restrictions on their use of their vehicles pending a trial. Here's Andrew's younger brother, Jordan Cristillo.
This tragedy should have been prevented. When we allow dangerous drivers on the road, we're gambling with other people's lives. That's why we're petitioning to bring forward the Andrew Law, where dangerous drivers that are charged with dangerous driving are no longer allowed on the road. It's a privilege, not a right, and that we have tougher sentencing. This is how we protect and prevent this tragedy from happening to your family. Please support it. Thank you.
So on Thursday, in response to our questions about that very idea, here's what Premier Ford had to say.
Is that something you'd support?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's long overdue. So we'll look at it. But these people, there isn't a person out there that drives on the highway. You don't see these sporty little cars whipping in and out all over the place. They're racing from point A to point B. You know, it's just terrible. They need to have their license taken away.
The accused driver in both of those crashes, 18-year-old Jaywin Kiru Banathan, is still in custody. He had a bail hearing this morning, and after some legal arguments, the decision has been postponed to August 25th. Reporting live from Oshawa Courthouse, I'm John Woodward. Back to you.
Thank you, John. South Simcoe police are on the scene this hour at a marijuana grow-op near Bradford.
The CTV News shopper spotted the investigation along Canal Road. Now, the police are at the suite to make that site to execute a search warrant, and up to 2,000 plants have been found in what's described as an outdoor marijuana cultivation and grow operation. Police say they arrived at the property at about 8:30 this morning, and they've cordoned off a perimeter around the property.
The Canadian Armed Forces is warning drivers that they may see an increased military presence on area highways starting today, but it is just part of regular training. The military says about 1,500 reservists will be taking part in transport and supply convoys between Toronto, Peterborough, Ottawa, and Petawawa today and tomorrow. Army vehicles will be traveling along several highways, including the 401, 403, and QEW, on their way to an annual training exercise at Garrison, Petawawa. The convoys will be returning the following weekend.
To safety concerns involving the Eglinton Crosstown LRT.
The trains are still in the testing phase, but already there have been a couple of crashes. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
Eglinton LRT trains have been running as part of extensive training for the last few years. Within the past week, in the Victoria Park and Eglinton area, trains were involved in 2 crashes.
They're just coming infrequently enough that a lot of people think, oh, it'll be fine. But I think it'll be happening the same way a lot of pedestrian car accidents will happen, where it's in a bits of people thinking, oh, surely it'll be just this one moment. It's not a big deal. And then they're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Saturday, Toronto police say a 64-year-old woman was crossing Eglinton near Pharmacy, went onto the platform and was struck. Police said they were told the driver honked the horn and slowed. The woman suffered life-threatening injuries. Then Wednesday afternoon, a train collided with a taxi at the corner of Swift. It's not clear what caused this crash, but two people living nearby tell CTV drivers will ignore signage preventing them from going left or straight through the intersection, while others question train signal lights functioning with traffic lights as if the LRT system was already fully open.
The train lights are set up so that the lights are going with the direction when the train starts, but the train's not even running yet, so people just kind of get confused of if they're stopping, if they're going, if they're turning.
In a statement, Metrolink says safety has always been a top priority through the design, construction, and testing of this project. As with LRTs in other jurisdictions, there are crossing signals and signage along the line, as well as audible safety cues like gong signals and horns to alert pedestrians and other vehicles. Since 2022, the agency says it's been wrapping 45 LRT vehicles with safety messages and leading community education initiatives, in addition to signage put up during construction advising people to use designated crosswalks. That message was reinforced by police on the weekend after the woman was hit.
If you follow the rules and regulations, if you follow the signals, then it would be a good...
We wait for the sign, so there's no issue for that.
Metrolink says the two crashes are not related and any findings from police investigations will be carefully reviewed. Officials have most recently cited a possible opening date for the line in either September or the fall. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Following a similar move by the province yesterday, Brampton's mayor says civil servants will be returning to the office full-time in January.
I don't believe there'll be any significant acrimony of it. Frankly, I think it's the direction that everyone is going to go. It's the global direction post-COVID as well. And if there is acrimony, it is what it is. We have to do the right thing.
Public service unions expressed concerns about the move when the province announced it yesterday, saying it doesn't take into account the needs of frontline workers and claims that in-person work leads to more productivity weren't proven. Mayor Patrick Brown said that was the case when it came to requiring Brampton's municipal staff to show up in office.
Home sales are up across the country, led by a big rebound in the GTA market, according to the Canadian Real Estate Association. CTV's Jeremy Sharon joins me now with the details. Jeremy, what's the big takeaway from today's numbers?
Well, Nathan, as you said, the GTA driving that charge, and what we've seen, experts say, is, an uptick in sales that was expected in the spring, but that we didn't see. Reluctance during the spring season, in the spring market, forced buyers to, not spend their money and not buy homes, much driven by interest rates and the anticipation of dropping interest rates, but also, a lot of economic uncertainty in the face of a trade war with Donald Trump. And so what we're seeing now is experts are pointing to a consistent increase over the last few months. What we've seen is home sales up 6.6% in July year over year, up 3.8% from June. And if you look back to March, since March, transactions overall are up 11.2%. So we've seen a significant increase across the country in transactions and action in the sale in the market, in the home market, in the real estate market, that is. And experts are pointing to the fact that now consumers are looking at the fact that they've had a couple of months to settle in to this new reality, some of the uncertainty that still exists, because a lot of those factors in the spring that were driving buyers away still do exist. People are a little more comfortable with their realities now, and what we've seen is a change in the interest rates. The Bank of Canada has, during its last update, paused interest rates, and so now, rather than anticipating a continuing cut to the Bank of Canada's key interest rate, buyers are realizing that perhaps we've reached a bit of a low point when it comes to interest rates, and they feel a little more comfortable about buying. So we're seeing kind of that increase in terms of home prices. They're up about 0.6% year over year. The average sale price of a home across the country, just over $670,000, Nathan.
Is it a seller's market now? Is it too early to say that?
I think it's a little too early still. I think, you know, when you look at the real estate market overall, there is just excitement that things are moving, that people are excited. I don't know that it's early enough to call it either a buyer's market or a seller's market, but there is certainly, you know, this positive vibe, if you will, that we're starting to see more movement. And what happened was, you know, due to such a soft spring market, there was a buildup in inventory. We're seeing that inventory kind of stagnate now, and a lot more action, a lot more home sales. So it's, you know, I think it's a healthier market for the Canadian economy, if you will.
Yeah, definitely encouraging news. CTV Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald Trump is heading to Alaska for what he calls a high-stakes summit with Russia's President Vladimir Putin. The plan is to discuss a ceasefire to help end the war against Ukraine. The U.S. president spoke to reporters on Air Force One this morning.
But I'm not here to negotiate for Ukraine. I'm here to get them at a table. And I think you have two sides. Look, Vladimir Putin wanted to take all of Ukraine. If I wasn't president, he would right now be taking all of Ukraine. But he's not going to do it.
Trump says if today's talks go well, a second three-way summit with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be quickly arranged and would be even more important than his discussion with Putin. Zelensky says it's time to end the war and the necessary steps must be taken by Russia. He added Ukraine is counting on America.
China has filed a complaint against Canada at the World Trade Organization. Last month, Ottawa announced an additional 25% tariff on steel imports containing steel melted and poured in China. Today, Beijing called that discriminatory, saying it disregarded WTO rules. China is urging Canada to take urgent action. Beijing has new temporary duties on Canadian canola and other imports. A Toronto man is gaining a big following as he tries to highlight the challenges commuters face downtown.
He's running along sidewalks, racing streetcars to show how slow the transit service can be.
This week on episode 6 of Man vs. Machine, we're back at Broadview Station, taking on the 505 Dundas streetcar with my friend Jack. Starting off, Jack got on the streetcar, doors closed, and we were off. After beating the streetcar last week, I was expecting this one to be pretty easy. So once again, got through the gate, got across Danforth, and almost was taken out by a cyclist, which was not ideal. Got down to Gerrard, hit some lights, only to realize that Jack was actually right behind me. I kept moving, and by the time I hit Dundas Square, I'd reached the streetcar in front of him and was actually able to stop off for a quick Tim's, which was exciting.
Mac Bauer's weekly series is titled Man vs. Machine. He attempts to outrun streetcars along their regular routes. So far, he's undefeated, even winning one race by 25 minutes, giving him time to stop for that coffee. Mac and his partner in this endeavor appeared on CP24 Breakfast.
This probably came about a year ago, where my wife and I were taking the streetcar from High Park all the way to Leslieville, which isn't a super far distance. It's about 12 kilometers, and both my wife and I are runners, so we do that distance quite often, and we are very surprised that it took well over an hour. So during the ride, we looked at each other and went, oh, we could do this. Yeah. We could beat this. Yeah. And then that kind of sat with me for a while, and then my friend Jack, who's here with me, I ran the idea by him, and he's a lot more into content creation and a lot better with a camera than I am, and he really pushed me to do it.
I know that he could do this, stopping at lights, and we even had the idea, like, why don't we stop at a Tim's, get a donut halfway through, and he'll still beat the streetcar. Yeah. But even we had another reporter join us, and even though they were slower, they could still beat the streetcar, and we just knew that this is an everyday problem that people face, and just highlighting the funness of it.
Bauer says transit could be vastly improved if there were more designated streetcar lanes and priority left turns for streetcars. Hey, great weather to try and run a streetcar today, Lindsay.
That's true, Michelle, although if you are venturing out for a run today, you'll likely find it's a little more humid than it was yesterday, and tomorrow will be even hotter. But here's today, 29 degrees, humidex 34. That's what we're expecting at the height of the day here in Toronto. A reminder that our seasonal average is about 26 degrees. That's important because we're going to be above that in the short range. and we're going to dip below it in the long range. Next week looks to bring us a fresher feel. We'll take you through the 7-day forecast after this break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
The battle continues to get wildfires under control from the West Coast to the East Coast. CTV's Scott Hurst continues to keep tabs on all the firefighting efforts. Scott, any progress to report?
Good afternoon, Michelle. We're still closely watching these wildfires burning on both coasts from BC all the way to Newfoundland. And these fires continue to grow and continue to force more people from their homes. Let's first start in Nova Scotia, where more people have been forced from their homes. An evacuation order has been upgraded to include now some 55 properties and about 100 people in the West Dalhousie area of the Annapolis Valley. It's believed that wildfire, which now grown to about 4 square kilometers, was likely started by a lightning strike. And in the province of Nova Scotia, there are currently about 11 active fires, and they've had more than 130 wildfires this season. If we shift over to Newfoundland, there is a kind of good news, bad news in the update that we got earlier today from the Premier of Newfoundland, John Hogan. The bad news is that the massive Kingston fire has grown again now to more than 91 square kilometers, and there are teams from the armed forces, there are Ontario firefighters, as well as local and regional firefighters trying to battle that one, which continues to grow in Conception Bay North. The more promising news is about the Paddy's Pond fire, which is burning a lot closer to St. John's. There has been no change in size. It still is about 300 hectares and has stayed that way for some 24 hours or so. Now, if we take you all the way out west to BC, there is still a concerning wildfire burning on Vancouver Island, the Mount Underwood fire, putting residents near the town of Port Alberni on high alert. It has grown again to about 35 square kilometers, Michelle.
Now, we know that the weather is a big factor. We heard that, lightning strikes can make things worse, but also rain can really help all the crews out there who are working around the clock. Might there be some weather that helps out in some parts of the country?
Finally, we get to talk about rain. It's been so long, and we haven't been able to use that word much at all through the summer, which has really put us in this position with all these damaging, threatening wildfires, which have destroyed, of course, so many homes, forced so many people from their homes for several months now. So in Newfoundland, there is rain expected, which could help the firefight there. The Newfoundland wildfire update, the officials said there's anywhere between 2 to 10 millimeters of rain for parts of Newfoundland, and that could help. Not a lot, but any little bit is better than the alternative of the hot and dry conditions, which really got us into this dire situation. And out west in BC on Vancouver Island, rare that they haven't had much rain at all since about early to mid-June. They are getting some rain in the Port Alberni area, and so there are some favorable conditions on both coasts, which could potentially help slow the growth of these wildfires. Favorable conditions to help give firefighters the upper hand, but still not expected to be enough, as significant rain is needed, Michelle, to have any meaningful impact on these fires.
We'll take what we can get. CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the National Newsroom. Thanks for the update.
Thanks, Michelle.
Here at home, 2 wildfires burning in cottage country are now classified as being held. It means the 27-hectare Burnt River fire is not likely to spread any further under current or forecasted conditions. The same goes for the Kirkfield fire, which is 33.5 hectares. Officials say there have been a total of 4 significant fires in the past week, and extremely dry conditions continue. People are reminded to avoid the fire areas and to report any sightings of smoke immediately. All right, what about the forecast here?
Well, it's dry conditions, so it doesn't help those firefighting efforts in Ontario. But if you have plans, that's pretty nice. And there isn't smoke like there was last week, kind of ruining that brilliant sunshine.
Yeah, that's much less of a concern today, especially. But heat is going to return, so that's a bit of a concern if you have outdoor plans for tomorrow, because once again, it's going to be feeling very muggy, a little uncomfortable. So just keep this in mind if you do have outdoor plans. Yeah, weather-wise, it's looking pretty good. And if you're ready for a bit of a change, temperatures in the low 20s, just wait until next week. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. We'll take a live look outside, and there's the CNE. What a beautiful day to kick off this event. Just make sure you stay hydrated if you're going to be out and about there today. And don't forget some sunscreen, because UV index is high again today. Just before we get to our local forecast, I want to bring you up to speed on Tropical Storm Erin, which is now Hurricane Erin, the first hurricane of the Atlantic season. It's going to bring some rain to the Virgin Islands and the Leeward Islands. It looks as though at this point it's going to miss the Bahamas and perhaps the east coast of the United States, but it's still a little too early to determine what sort of impact, if any, this could have on Atlantic Canada, which would make things interesting for the firefight there. Look at this. It's also expected to become a Category 4 in strength. That's a major hurricane and quite strong. Here's the satellite and radar closer to home. No rain in the forecast today. Chance of showers as we progress through tomorrow. It's just a slight chance. Best chance of any wet weather will come late in the day, especially for the GTA, but also possibly in southwestern Ontario. Overnight and into Sunday, we've got a chance of showers as well. There's Sunday afternoon. Quick pop-up possible in the GTA before that moves on out. And then Monday's looking like a cloudy day, but so far it's expected to be dry. We're at 27 degrees now in the city. It feels like 30 at this hour. If you're going to head to the CNE this evening, again, conditions look great. I think this is maybe the last day we can have this sun icon at 8 p.m. because tonight's sunset time is just after about 8:20. So those evenings getting a little bit shorter. Overnight tonight, we fall to around 19 degrees, which is still warm, but not uncomfortable necessarily. We are below 20 degrees. Tomorrow, though, this is going to be a little hot and sticky. 32 will feel like 37, and the overnight low Saturday expected to be around 21. There's the UV indexes for tomorrow. A lot of 8s, 9s across the board. And temperature-wise, yeah, we're in the upper 20s for some, but for most cases in southern Ontario, it is a 30-degree day, maybe up to 32, even 33 degrees in some areas. If you're off to the cottage or a campground, that's a look at what you can expect through the weekend. And then here's the 7-day forecast. A little bit cooler into Sunday, but it's Monday and Tuesday that we're talking highs in the low 20s. That chance of showers on Tuesday, and then we gradually do warm back up as the week goes on. That's the weather for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, still ahead, the 146th Canadian National Exhibition is officially underway. This is an iconic Toronto tradition. Our Jessica Smith is there. We'll check and see what she's up to after the break.
Well, there's excitement in the city with the return of the CNE. The event is always bittersweet as it signals the end of summer, but the fair itself full of tasty treats. CTV's Jessica Smith is live with more and perhaps a sample of what are you doing, Jess?
Stick my arm out. How many people see my arm?
I'm just gonna do the interview like this.
Yeah, it worked with me.
Well, we got a great chopper view of the CNE, but we're going to sort out the tech difficulties with our Jessica Smith, keeping us in suspense. For now, we'll tell you that the head of Drake's record label is pushing back on defamation claims from the Toronto rapper over Kendrick Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
Drake had sued Universal Music Group, saying the song includes false allegations about him and encourages vigilante violence. The label had already called the claim frivolous. Now, Variety reports UMG chairman and CEO Lucian Grange has weighed in. In a declaration letter before a New York court, he denied direct involvement and suggested Drake was attempting to gain media attention or force some kind of financial concessions. The letter followed a move by Drake's lawyers seeking access to UMG's contract with Kendrick Lamar.
The average price of a new car in Canada is more than $66,000, and with current trade tensions, there are concerns it could rise even higher.
The majority of buyers have to finance their purchase, and if you have a bad credit rating, a car loan will cost you substantially more. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
Marva Ebo of Bolton bought this 2016 Mazda SUV 3 years ago. Unfortunately, when she got a loan, she had credit issues. She borrowed just over $40,000 for the vehicle over 6 years. At almost 13% interest, the cost of borrowing is more than $17,000.
My credit was just below 600, so it was really hard to get any credit. So, of course, they approved me, but with a very high interest rate.
After paying $800 a month for the past 3 years, she still owes about $30,000 for the car, even though it's worth less than half that.
It's really, really frustrating, and I just reached a point now I don't know what to do.
Even if you have good credit, a recent survey found the total cost of car ownership in Canada is almost $1,400 a month. When you have bad credit, it's a lot more than that.
The data is showing that negative equity in car loans is now higher than it's ever been before.
Car Help Canada says anyone with poor credit or who has declared bankruptcy can end up with never-ending car payments.
The interest cost, the cost of financing ends up being so incredibly high that it quickly drowns them in debt, and they're left with a vehicle that's worth significantly less than what they originally paid for.
It's important to maintain a good credit rating to avoid having to take out loans with high interest lenders.
If you miss just one payment, regardless of what that amount is, it can have a very real impact on your credit score. So you want to be really careful about that.
I do need a car. I just can't afford $800 a month.
For anyone stuck in a high interest loan, you could refinance, sell your car, or trade it in for something more affordable. Car Help Canada suggests paying it off as quickly as you can.
There's no easy way out of it. You just have to pay down the debt as quickly as you can, pay off the vehicle, and just hold on to it.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
And we're going to head back to the exhibition grounds and check in with Jessica Smith, who's there for the day, and she's sampling some of that food. I'm sure it's delicious.
It is delicious, but also a little confusing. This is spicy cotton candy, so it's got a bit of a habanero kind of flavor to it. I think there's bacon in there as well. It goes all the way into the cone, and then there's a butter tart on there because, again, butter is a massive theme. I'm going to come over here. So talk to me about the reaction of the spicy cotton candy so far.
People have been very shocked. Definitely a very unique flavor we brought to the CNE, but people have been loving it, especially if you're a big spice lover. People have been really into it.
It is a little confusing to have the sweet and spicy and savory together, but it kind of works. Why does it work?
Honestly, I think it's just craziness that works together. A lot of good stuff, a lot of all Canadian stuff, and it all comes together really well.
Listen, I've been sampling the spicy cotton candy. I'll let you guys get in there. It is really good. I highly recommend. But it is a tickler for your brain. But the reaction so far from people being down here has been great. It is busy. We're full. There's all kinds of people, the young at heart. And the food is really one of the biggest attractions when it comes to the CNE. And it feels like everybody here is kind of waiting in line to get the viral spicy cotton candy. We've also got that dirty soda that's got the butter in it. We've got churro pizza. There's a little something for everybody down here at the CNE. I'll send it back into the studio. Ooh, spicy, very spicy.
Well, the province is pledging new funds to train students for jobs in the construction sector. The ministry in charge of post-secondary education says it will invest $75 million to train up to 7,800 additional students at colleges, universities, and Indigenous institutes. Most of those spaces will be for welding, carpentry, and renovation, but a few hundred will go towards graduate student spaces at universities to train urban and land use planners. There are approximately 240 construction-related techniques and technician programs offered at Ontario post-secondary institutions.
The Toronto International Film Festival is making a documentary about the 2023 Hamas attacks in Israel, an official selection following backlash after the festival pulled it from its lineup. The film, titled The Road Between Us, The Ultimate Rescue, will now be screened. A joint statement last night from TIFF CEO Cameron Bailey and director Barry Average says a resolution was reached after the public expressed their, quote, pain and frustration. The film was initially pulled after TIFF said it didn't meet the festival's requirements, including legal clearance of all footage. The film follows a retired Israeli general's mission to rescue his family during the deadly Hamas attacks on October 7th, 2023. The joint statement also says TIFF's communication around its requirements did not clearly articulate the concerns and roadblocks that arose, and for that we are sorry. It goes on to say a world premiere date will be announced next week. To sports, the Blue Jays were looking for a series win against the Chicago Cubs yesterday afternoon.
In the air to left center and will hit. Gone!
Vladdy Guerrero Jr. hit his 20th home run of the season in the 7th inning to give the Jays a 2-1 lead. And that would be the final score in the rubber match of the 3-game series. The Jays open a home series with the Texas Rangers tonight. First pitch is 7:07.
A visitor milestone was reached recently in Bruce County, celebrated by the keepers of a nearly 200-year-old lighthouse. CTV's Scott Miller with more on the landmark's legacy and continued tourist interest.
When Marilyn Pope came from Acton to enjoy a tour of Chantry Island near Southampton on Wednesday, she had no idea she would be making history as the 30,000th visitor to the historical site.
Surprising? I don't know. Yeah, totally shocking.
Since 2001, Southampton's Marine Heritage Society volunteers have been taking visitors from across North America to visit Chantry Island and its more than 150-year-old lighthouse. Built in 1859, the Chantry Island Lighthouse and Lighthouse Keeper's Home started falling into disrepair in the 1980s. A group of volunteers came together in the early 90s to try and restore the historical structures and bring tours to the National Historic Site. By the late 90s, restoration on the Lighthouse Keeper's Home began, and by 2001, tours to the island off the coast of Southampton began.
30,000 visitors, it is a milestone for this organization, and to think it all started with a group of people meeting at the Walker House in the 90s and saying, how can we enhance our tourism for Southampton, what can we do?
Kaufman says the entirely volunteer-run tours will continue as long as there are enough local people willing to keep it going, which with more than 200 volunteers now involved means that Chantry Island tours are here to stay.
With the 30,000 visitors that we've taken across there, that means that this boat behind us has made over 4,000 trips to that island, full of volunteers, full of paid patrons. So it is an ongoing, a great deal amount of work, but we have an enormous amount of fun doing it.
The Marine Heritage Society, they've been doing these tours for years and years now, and it's one of the best things about our community. One of the best things about Southampton is the tours to the island. Of course, the lighthouse on the island, and getting out there and being able to climb up it and look out across the water and back at the shore.
As for the 30,000th visitor, Marilyn Pope, she's happy to have been a part of history and would recommend the 2-hour tours to everyone.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, definitely worth the boat ride and everything. I was a little nervous about the stairs, but did it, so yeah.
Near Southampton, Scott Miller, CTV News.
A former post office south of Little Jamaica has been renovated and is now Unitarian Church.
But within the walls, one will find more than church services. CTV's Andrea Case reports.
Toronto Pan-African Film Festival happening this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Wow. And your brand new home.
Brand new home.
Lori Beezer is busy this weekend. She's hosting the 3rd annual Toronto Pan-African Film Festival in her neighborhood of Little Jamaica, which is undergoing change.
Because things are leaving. What do we do? What are the things that anchor culture into space? And one is the arts. So bringing something like a film festival where film becomes this really cool timepiece for people to be able to share once a year is something that I know this neighborhood needs.
This year, it has a new home.
This is our first event. We're really excited to welcome Laurie and the film festival here. It'll be fancy, and so that'll be really fun. It makes great use of our space.
The former Canada Post Office, now owned and renovated by the Unitarian Church, has made the space available to rent. In fact, this event will be held even before church services begin in the building next month.
We have so many people that are interested in having a voice. Not everybody gets into TIFF, right? So this becomes that other space that the emerging filmmakers can use.
The festival features films and discussion. The films are free. The final event is not. Register for tickets at tpath.com.
Sunday is brand new. That's a ticketed event. The African Diaspora Film and Media Brunch at the Aqua Supper Club. And we're having the discussion about being Black in film and media and what that means to them. And that's going to be powerful.
Special guest, American broadcaster Philip Scott, the founder of the African Diaspora News Channel. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Another great summer event.
So much on tap. We were talking about the X, which just started today. Okay, take us into the weekend weather-wise.
Yeah, we'll start with tomorrow. So Saturday is going to be a hot day. Here's one more look at the forecast daytime highs. We're into the 30s this time around, feeling closer to 40 once again. And there's a couple of big events going on, including the King's Plate. Here's a look at what you can expect through the afternoon. The weekend overall is looking pretty good. Chance of showers into the day on Sunday. And there's one more snapshot of your 7-day forecast. Cooler air next week. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.